was a recent report about negativity, widespread negativity throughout All Elite Wrestling because a vice president of post-production was fired this past Monday. How far within the company does this negativity reach? Nobody really knows. But Dave Meltzer is reporting today that a major AEW star could be on their way out of the company in 2024 and land back with WWE. I'll have that right here on today's OTS. Also, AEW is handing out fines for social media behavior. Finally, some order within the company. We got an update on Braun Strowman, an update on Kyle O'Reilly, an update on Vince McMahon and Bryan Danielson's supposed injury from this past Tuesday's AEW Collision tapings in Montreal. All this and so much more wrestling news right here on OTS. We will start with the old man, Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon apparently has no plans to leave WWE and still holds considerable power within the company. Now, a month ago, Vince McMahon sold over $700 million in TKO stock. The 8.4 million shares sold represented nearly 25% of McMahon's holdings in TKO. This caused people to question McMahon's long-term future with the WWE. Sports Illustrated reported yesterday that they were told by sources in WWE that McMahon has no plans to leave the company at all. McMahon reportedly needed to have the money liquid, so he sold much of his stock. It's unclear why he needed the money. None of my business. I don't really care. I only care for one thing and one thing only, and that is Vince McMahon does not bleed back onto the creative side of WWE. Also, sources indicated McMahon has no plans to stop working for the company, and McMahon still wields great power in the company. It was added that McMahon's working relationship with Ari Emanuel remains a positive one after the decision was made for Triple H to be in charge of creative without interference. Another real non-story. Nobody really expects Vince McMahon to go anywhere anytime soon. Obviously, this is going to be put on a, I would say, more negative light than anything because, you know, everybody talks about Vince McMahon in the worst possible ways. They want him out. They don't want anything to do with him within the company. They're trying to push him out. All of these things might hold some credibility. But right now, I don't think there really, and believe me, I would be the first to tell you, I don't think there really is anything to worry about right now. I think things are where they need to be. We have not really seen any Vince McMahon influence on the show. Any. And I would have called it out already if we have seen it. And we haven't seen anything. Triple H is completely in charge. As long as it stays that way, the way that it needs to be, going into WrestleMania season, I think we will be fine. Now, going into WrestleMania season, things obviously might change. They changed last year around that time, or this year, I should say. The last time WrestleMania came around, you know, Vince was starting to slowly creep back into the creative side of things. He was backstage at WrestleMania. He was at the production helm. He was sitting in Gorilla. And then Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, you guys know how disastrous that show was. And Vince McMahon had all of his DNA all over it. We don't need anything like that happening again this year. So I know a lot of people are going to be weary about that. WrestleMania 40, the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania under the TKO umbrella. It's going to be something to keep an eye out for. Will we have history repeat itself? Right now, there's nothing to worry about. Come WrestleMania season, you know Vince is going to be involved because that is his baby. That is his creation. So right now, nothing to worry about. We'll cross that bridge when we get there with Vince McMahon potentially creeping back into things around WrestleMania season. But I think Ari Emanuel has really kept him at bay very, very nicely. Andrade El Idolo. This is a story that broke today. Apparently, Andrade's AEW contract is believed to be up soon. Now, it appears that Andrade is on his way out of AEW after joining the promotion in 2021, following a lot of hype and following his WWE departure. For the majority of his AEW run, he seemed very unhappy. And it's not really a difficult thing to see why he's unhappy. And he's had some backstage issues as well within AEW. He had an incident backstage in October of 22 with Sammy Guevara where he allegedly sucker punched him at a Dynamite event, which resulted in him being sent home and going through with surgery for a torn pec that he was dealing with at the time. Andrade returned in June and has made references to WWE since returning, leading to speculation he could go back to the company. You know, obviously, the number one reason would be that his wife still works there. Charlotte Flair obviously works on SmackDown. El Idolo is currently a part of the AEW Continental Classic in the Blue League, and he will continue to round out this tournament as we head towards the finals for World's End. Andrade's not going to be in the finals. He's going to have a solid tournament. I don't want to leak the spoilers on Saturday night, but apparently another great match with Brian on Saturday night for Collision. He's going to do very well in the tournament, even though he's not going to be factored into being the winner of the Continental Classic. Now, while speaking on The Observer, Dave Meltzer noted that Andrade's AEW contract is slated to expire sometime in 2024 unless time has been added due to time missed when he was out of action. That's something to keep an eye out on. You think Tony Khan is going to just allow Andrade to go back to WWE after making advances about WWE, talking about WWE? When petty Tony Khan wants to come out and play, petty Tony Khan is as petty as they come. He's definitely going to add time on top of his contract because he was out with injury. Tony Khan wants as much time to get his return on his investment in Andrade as possible. Kenny Omega had time added onto his contract, and he is an EVP in the company. So if Kenny Omega had time added on top of his contract, then Andrade is going to get time added on top of his contract. Meltzer says this. He's going back to CMLL. I'm not sure exactly what week, but probably relatively soon. Meltzer continued to state before talking about how while Andrade had talks with AAA, he started in CMLL and wants to go back. It's something he wants to do. His AEW deal is coming up relatively soon unless it's extended or something because of time off for injuries or whatever. But he thinks his deal is up pretty soon. So he wants to go back to CMLL in case he ends up going back to WWE. He's not made a decision about what he's going to do next. He's not signed a new AEW deal. But if he goes to WWE, he knows he can't go back to Arena Mexico, Meltzer stated. Andrade is a very polarizing figure. You either like him or you don't. Is he a fantastic pro wrestler? Yes. But Andrade is the product of bad creative. He is. He hasn't really had a solid creative behind him at all. Andrade really found the most success when he was in NXT, Black and Gold, and they tweaked his character a little bit and added something that changed the whole dynamic of his character. And that something was Zelina Vega. They were an unbelievable pairing. Andrade became a world championship contender almost immediately when he was paired with Zelina Vega. Ever since then, he made the main roster. Zelina joined him on the main roster. They didn't know how to handle it. Vince was in the mindset of, well, it worked down there. My son-in-law made it work down there. I don't really care for it, and I'm going to show my son-in-law that he's a failure. And Vince had the mindset of taking everything that Triple H did on NXT Black and Gold at the time, making it fail so that he can blame Triple H for not getting the job done, because the mindset on the main roster was that what he was doing down there isn't their vision. And what he was doing down there, everybody was really taking a liking to, and the main roster team, Vince's team, didn't like that because they felt Triple H was trying to upstage the main roster. You don't agree with that? Go take a walk. It's the fucking facts. I don't need to work there to tell you that is the case. That absolutely was the case. It happened time and time and time and time and time again. Andrade was a part of that. They took Zelina away from Andrade, and then they cite, oh, well, this guy can't speak English. He doesn't cut a good promo. No fucking shit. You took the one fucking thing that he really didn't do good at And you blamed him for it when he had it in Zelina. Man, this shit pisses me off. That shit angers me when I go back and think how many talents they had that Vince didn't like. You'd be looking at a vastly different WWE right now. Honestly. If Andrade goes back to WWE, he needs Zelina Vega. Easy. He hasn't had that in AEW. They tinkered with his character. They let him be a little bit more free. They potentially were going to put a stable around him. Now that stable is with Roosh. Where's Andrade fit in? I don't know. But if Andrade goes back to WWE, Andrade and Santos Escobar, Andrade and Rey Mysterio, Andrade and Dragon Lee, Andrade and Carlito, Andrade and whoever. You want to have him start a new stable. I mean, he fits in like a fucking glove on SmackDown. I don't know what else to tell you. His wife is there. All the talents that Triple H has taken and molded into his version of Lucha Libre are over there. It just makes sense for him to go back. What has Tony Khan done with Andrade? Andrade just ended up being another WWE guy that failed and Tony Khan did nothing with. Nothing. I don't think AEW is creatively where they needed to be to make Andrade stand out. And now he's just another name. Another name that's a great wrestler that they don't know what to do with. And after the tournament, he's probably not going to fit into anything. It's got this storyline with Miro right now, and he's being managed by CJ Perry. And we all know that CJ is married to Miro. And I don't know what's going on there. I know he's been injured and he was out for about 8 months, but I mean, holy shit. The guy is unbelievable in the ring. Don't know what they've done with him. And you see it written all over his face. Andrade is unhappy. Malachi's unhappy. Keith Lee's unhappy. Buddy Matthews is unhappy. The core four. I'm telling you right now, bookmark it, stamp it, fucking put it on your predictions for 2024. Whenever these men are let go or their contracts are up with AEW, Andrade, Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Keith Lee, they are all headed back to WWE. Mark my words. Andrade's wife is there. Malachi's wife is there. Buddy Matthews' wife is there. And Keith Lee. I mean, Keith Lee has not been the same since the black and gold era of NXT, and Triple H was seemingly the only one that knew what to fucking do with Keith Lee. Now Keith Lee is on Ring of Honor wrestling Shane Taylor at Final Battle, and nobody's going to give a shit. AEW has dropped the ball on more talents than I can really tell you. Andrade sent it back to WWE, no doubt about it. Backstage news on AEW handing out social media fines. Now, Brian Alvarez mentioned on Wrestling Observer Radio that he asked around and people hadn't heard that Bryan Danielson had been issuing fines. Now, the story was that Brian is a part of a disciplinary committee and that Brian voted with other people. Brian did not fire CM Punk. Brian voted, which then Tony Khan looked at all the evidence and made the decision himself. Then there was a report that Brian is a locker room leader and he is the right-hand man of Tony Khan or one of Tony's right-hand men. And he hands out fines, suspensions as he sees fit backstage because they need a locker room leader. And Brian is respected. That's the type of guy I want in my locker room. That's the type of guy I want as a leader. Now, Meltzer also commented that the story had been overblown in many ways. He said that Bryan Danielson is on a committee, but he's not the individual enforcing punishments. According to a recent report, Danielson, along with the AEW General Counsel, Chris Peck, and an unnamed external attorney were a part of the committee that recommended the dismissal of CM Punk following his backstage altercation at All In with Jack Perry. Tony Khan ultimately looked at the evidence and fired Punk. It was suggested that Danielson was leading the committee, but he has since shot those rumors down. Some AEW wrestlers have been vocal on social media as of late about their positions and booking within the company, Britt Baker called out the promotion for her lack of promo time compared to the likes of MJF and Christian Cage, while Matt Hardy shared his frustration about the way he and his brother Jeff were currently being utilized by AEW. Those posts coincide with reports suggesting that there is currently a great deal of negativity behind the scenes. Now, let's be fair. We don't know if Britt is playing it up. We don't know if Britt's in character. We don't know if Britt is doing something because she's a part of the Devil storyline. We don't really know. So it's unfair to point the finger of, Britt's being negative. Britt's being a troublemaker. Maybe years ago. And we called that shit out. I got called out for it, as you guys know. It's been very well documented. But I'm not going to sit here and blame Britt Baker for saying what she said on social media when we don't really know if they're blurring the lines or not. And it's all a part of the Devil storyline. Jack Perry liked negative tweets about MJF. Sammy Guevara liked negative tweets about MJF. I don't know what's going on there. We got to let that kind of play out there. But what is wrong with AEW taking the stance of reeling everybody in and maybe sitting everybody down and saying, hey, guys, we need to act a little bit more professional. It's like the fucking Wild Wild West out here. We don't want you to bring any negative feeling towards AEW. We're already getting slammed on multiple sides because of our reputation. Let's get this company back to a good standing and let's tone the shit down on social media. They put Brian in a position, according to this report. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it is, Brian is in charge and he's the locker room leader. He's the police in AEW. You can't have anybody more respected than Brian. And if you truly respect AEW, then you respect the decisions to put someone like Bryan Danielson in charge. And if you got a fucking problem, why don't you do the right thing and go seek Brian, who I'm sure will listen with open ears about what is bothering you and what your issue is, and then he'll take it to the appropriate parties. Are we going to sit here and fault AEW for getting some order throughout all the chaos? I don't see this as a bad thing. You shouldn't be going on social media talking negatively about the fucking company you work for because this isn't happening and that isn't happening and this isn't happening. Go talk to somebody and air out your grievances and get it solved away from social media so it doesn't make the company look bad. I mean, it's pretty academic. Kyle O'Reilly. Where is Kyle O'Reilly? Apparently, there's a major update on Kyle O'Reilly and his return to AEW. He's been out for 18 months with no sign of a return to AEW. Unfortunately, the updates in the summer that a lot of people heard were not good in regards to Kyle O'Reilly. Sources that indicated to Fightful that O'Reilly was not factored into any AEW plans due to his injury, and there is currently no timetable for him to return. At least one part of that has changed, and Fightful is told that Kyle O'Reilly has been backstage recently and is looking like he could return to programming after a period of it looking quite unlikely. He underwent neck fusion surgery in September 22, but unfortunately experienced a post-surgical issue in the months that followed. He's been working out with a strength and conditioning specialist for months. You know, in the summer, you want to take the summer and what we're seeing right now. O'Reilly might not have factored into any plans in the summer because things were going according to plan with the Devil storyline, with MJF and Adam Cole, who Kyle O'Reilly is linked to. Adam Cole got hurt. MJF is now hurt. Things are now possibly being changed to make sure this huge angle goes off the way that it needs. And they may be seeing it play out with a reveal on the 30th at World's End. Maybe O'Reilly wasn't a part of it. Maybe with all the changes now, O'Reilly is backstage because now he's factored into the story, because the story itself and the story of the reveal, who the henchmen are, who the devil is. Maybe everything needed to be sped up. Maybe everything needed to be changed. And they felt like Kyle O'Reilly would fit into this storyline as best for him and who should be under one of the masks of the devil's henchmen. I mean, it's just, again, academic, very simple. He didn't factor into things then. He might have been, you know, if he was accelerating towards better health and good health. Now he's back. If he's backstage, then clearly he's a part of something. And if he's backstage, they got plans for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be back there. He may be a part of the Devil's Henchman. We don't really know yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. But as we've very well documented on Wednesdays, Adam Cole is the only one that makes legitimate sense as being the Devil. And his henchmen could be O'Reilly, could be Wardlow, could be the Kingdom, could be Roddy. It could be Roddy, Taven, Bennett, and O'Reilly. That's the way I see it playing out best. I don't know about you guys, but I think O'Reilly's absolutely a part of the Devil storyline, and that's why he's been backstage. But I love O'Reilly. I think he's great. It's going to be great to get him back on AEW television. And Bryan Danielson, injury update on Bryan Danielson to go along with Kyle O'Reilly. Right now, Danielson is wrestling Andrade on Saturday's Collision. And Danielson caused an uproar with fans in attendance and online as there was belief that he was injured in the match. Apparently he was bleeding and the ruptured orbital bone was the issue. Fightful has now confirmed that this is a part of an angle and he's not sidelined from action as of now. We're told AEW officials say Fightful are very happy with how the AEW Collision tapings went in Montreal on Tuesday, especially from a match quality perspective. Outrage for no reason, man. AEW's unsafe. I can't believe AEW's letting Bryan Danielson work injured. He's not cleared. Who's running their medical team? Blah, blah, blah. Yada, yada, yada. Did you attend the fucking taping? Do you work for the company? People jumping to conclusions and looking like a bunch of fucking idiots, man. Bryan's not hurt. I'm sure the match with Andrade was fucking great. And Braun Strowman. Before we get out of here, man, this last story here, Braun Strowman says he's coming back for himself, he's coming back for Bray Wyatt, and he wants to honor Bray. He says this, after his 5-month checkup, he's gotten medically cleared to now start lifting weights. The bones in his neck are fusing well after having cervical fusion on his C4 and C5, where they put a metal plate and 4 screws in his neck. He says this, and I quote, "The goal for 2024 is to continue this. As I said, I go back after the first year to have another checkup and then get back in the ring, getting back into shape, and then getting back to passing these hands out." He doesn't know whether he'll be back yet regarding a potential Royal Rumble return in January. It's highly unlikely that he will be medically cleared in that time. Strowman also discussed the late Bray Wyatt, who died of a heart attack in August. Strowman says he wouldn't be where he is in his career without Bray, who did so much for him and taught him how to navigate through the company. Strowman credited him for teaching him to be a better wrestler and a better person. Strowman said that Wyatt was one of the greatest human beings that ever stepped foot on this earth and someone he aspires to be. He says, so especially with my WWE return, like I have, I'm not only coming back for me, I'm coming back for him. The last time we saw Strowman on TV was when he teamed with Ricochet against Alpha Academy on the May 1st episode of Raw. Strowman was one of those guys that was actually utilized very well. Outside of all the returns that Triple H brought back to the company, he was actually probably at the top of the list for being treated and booked the right way. Is he missed on SmackDown? I wouldn't necessarily say he's missed, but I think I'd like to see Strowman back, as I do think that there is a spot for him on SmackDown. I do. And if he wants to come back for Bray, it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back and pays homage and honors Bray when he does come back. And I wish him nothing but the best. I wish him good health. And I'm looking forward to seeing him get back in the ring and doing what he does. I think he would be a valuable asset to Friday Night SmackDown. Guys, thank you so very much for all of your supports. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that thumbs up. Let me know what you think of the top stories today. Andrade, Bryan Danielson, and much, much more that we talked about today. Please follow me on social media, on X, at JD from NY206. Also, Instagram, TikTok, Cameo. Make sure you guys go check that out. Links are in the description below. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications. Go check out all the other content and the live streams on the channel. And hit that thumbs up. Helps me out in the algorithm. Absolutely does. Hit that thumbs up. Let's try for 1,000. likes on today's OTS. Until Friday, guys, I'll see you live after Friday Night SmackDown. CM Punk returns to SmackDown for the first time in 10 years right here on OTS. I'll see you guys later.